Hello everyone, happy Sunday. Today is April the 28th. Oliveira Lawyers, Luciano Oliveira here with you. I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for you who have already liked our live stream. We are just getting started and I can see 5 likes. Thank you so much. Let's see who we have here in our live stream. Jonathan McMillan, hello from Illinois, United States of America. Hello, Jonathan. We met before. I think the last time we met, you were in Brazil, Jonathan. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we met before over a consultation. You had very exciting plans. I hope your plans are going as expected, and hope that you see what's going on right now with you. Okay, let's see who else we have here in our live stream. People are warming up. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of participation very soon. All right, Chris Moose. Oi, Luciano Oliveira, tudo bem? I'm from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Oh, hi, Chris. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to our live stream. Good to know you're from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Let us know how your plans about Brazil are going, Chris. Jonathan is confirming. All right. I'm happy to see that I have a good memory, Jonathan. Yes, we did. Thank you. All right, Jonathan. Good to see you around. That's your first time in our live streams. You are welcome to join us for our conversations today and in our next live streams as well. Okay, let's see who else is over here. All right, folks, any subjects in particular? Kate, well, all right, Kate. Kate is like in every single live stream. So happy to see you here. All right, this is Katie's question, general question about Brazil. Can you give any information about the general differences or similarities between the coastal areas around Salvador, Natal, Recife, João Pessoa? Just curious, thanks. Yes. So for those who don't know, these are, coastal areas in the northeast of Brazil. And they do have, of course, similarities because they are in a kind of, similar, under a similar geographical location, which is the northeast of Brazil. They are developing areas. They are substantially behind the south. In terms of development, but they are becoming more developed over time, and they are becoming more sought after by foreign citizens, right? Traditionally, you're going to see, or traditionally, you see U.S. citizens going to, locations like Rio de Janeiro, right? Like Rio de Janeiro has been a major choice, like, I don't know, like for, let's say 100 years, right? For so long. São Paulo as well. Florianópolis, which is in the south of Brazil, is a coastal area. Not so much, but also becoming popular, particularly with digital nomads. But yes, there is something going on with the northeast of Brazil. The most extreme state in the northeast is going to be Ceará. Okay, is the state up to the north, and Ceará traditionally is very famous or well known among Europeans. So I remember when I was in my 20s, I used to go to the northeast for vacation, and I would never meet a U.S. citizen, but I would meet plenty of Germans, of British, French people from Italy, and so on. So, like the Northeast in general is very, well known by Europeans. But nowadays, interesting enough, U.S. citizens are also discovering, if you will, discovering the Northeast. And all of those states, they kind of share a common trait, which is like this kind of more developing state of the economy. So usually, things are going to be cheaper. Workforce is going to be cheaper. People are usually going to have more available time just because there is not so much going on in terms of jobs or economic activity, but that's changing, right? Particularly for the capitals. So there is a clear distinction in terms of the experience you're going to have if you are living or staying in a major capital. For instance, for Ceará, we're talking about Fortaleza. If you think Bahia, we're going to be talking about Salvador, right? Natal, like in Kate's example here, Natal is the capital of Rio Grande do Norte. Recife is the capital of Pernambuco, right? And so on. So in the capital, usually, yes, that's where you're going to find most of the conveniences. You're going to find, like large apartment buildings. You're going to find a good infrastructure. You're going to find, police force and services, hospitals, and so on. When you leave the capital, things start to change real quick. So going back to Ceará, Fortaleza is a huge city. There's lots of really modern apartment buildings and so on. But if you drive just an hour, south, or if you drive an hour north of Fortaleza, the experience is going to change dramatically. You're going to be in a small town with, potentially in a fishing village with this kind of, a completely different experience in which you're not going to see any buildings at all, okay, potentially. And you're going to meet, people who probably will not speak much English or another language. But on the other hand, they're going to be potentially as friendly or even more friendly than people you're going to find at the capital, right? Now, in terms of differences from state to state, you could say that, Ceará and Bahia, they have been traditionally at the forefront of the development. Until not long ago, Bahia actually had like the first place in terms of gross product. But nowadays, Ceará and Fortaleza have assumed the first place, and the other states, they are kind of behind in terms of gross product, but they all have this kind of, coastal area oriented activities, right? Like you don't see much going on, more to the countryside. Usually in the countryside, you're going to find less and less developed cities with major exceptions, okay? So usually you're going to find a few larger cities in the countryside of those states. But I would say that most cities, they are actually by the coast, okay? Whenever I try to get, such a comparison, I usually going to compare the Northeast, not compare, but maybe to highlight the distinctions between the Northeast, which we call Nordeste, and the south of Brazil, particularly Rio de Janeiro, in terms of saying that the Northeast is going to be, of course, naturally much more affordable. You're going to find more opportunities, particularly if you're considering buying, real estate, and, probably people who are going to be more interested in learning about you because foreign citizens, particularly U.S. citizens, they are still rare. Not so much, but still somewhat rare in the Northeast, while they are not rare at all in places like Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. I hope that makes sense. All right, I see here João Villa. Hello, Luciano from São Paulo, Brazil. Welcome, João. João Villa is actually a friend of mine, and he's dropping by just to show some support. Really nice to see you here, João. All right, cheers, and hope to see you soon. We have a Jonathan McMullen now asking if buying a property over 1 million reais and using your services for the purchase, can you also handle an application for the Brazil Golden Visa? Yes, Jonathan. And actually, whenever we have like a client for the Brazil Golden Visa, we are usually going to handle the real estate part as well, because unless you buy the property that is like compliant with the Golden Visa, and not only a property that is compliant, but you buy the property in a compliant way, meaning that you send it the monies the way you should send, and keep, like the paperwork and taking all the necessary steps, you could basically waste this opportunity by buying a non-compliant property, and then after that point you can go back in time and succeed for the Brazil Golden Visa application. So our recommendation is always to handle the property acquisition and the Brazil Golden Visa application as a single thing, as a single process. And that's what we do here at the firm. We have plenty of examples of people who are going to, get in touch with us after buying the property, only to find out that they are unable to apply for the Brazil Golden Visa. Particularly, for the Northeast and the North, sometimes they are going to buy a property that does not have a legal deed. Sometimes they are going to buy a rural property. Sometimes they are going to buy a urban property that has not updated with the construction. So, although it's urban, it doesn't have a property, it doesn't have a construction, and therefore it does not qualify. Other people, they may end up buying a property that does qualify, but they would send, a bunch of remittances through an app likewise, and they wouldn't have like the necessary currency exchange contract to present for the application. So there are all types of reasons for real estate transactions not to qualify for the Brazil Golden Visa. And therefore, Jonathan, yes, we not only handle both things, but we actually recommend that both things are handled at the same time. Okay, I see here MKS. Welcome, MKS. Good to see you. I think it may be your third live stream in a row. Good to see you. Brazil is the best country in the world. Never change Brazil. All right, MKS. Good to see the excitement over here. We share your excitement, okay? And we agree for sure. Denzil Mason. Welcome, Denzil. Greetings, Luciano. Always enjoy the stream from the UK. Welcome back, Denzil. Really good to see you over here. Donna, also a repeat participant. Donna, welcome back. I'm starting to gather papers needed for to start the process for a retirement visa. My Social Security is a little below the $2,000 requirement. So I will be getting a financial letter. And how long must I remain in Brazil, or can I travel at will? All right, so let's tackle the first part of your question, Donna. Like, if you don't have the $2,000 in retirement income, right? You could complement with something that's not necessarily retirement, right? So let's say if you have if you have an Airbnb property, if you have a rental property, if you have a CD. If you have, savings, if you have a 401k, if you have, 401k would be like retirement income, right? We're just talking about complementary income. So it could be savings, it could be a CD, it could be like, funds that you bought at Vanguard or BlackRock. It could be anything that you could show to complement whatever you're getting in retirement income and get you to the $2,000 requirement. All right. A financial letter, it's not enough. Like, you're not going to be explaining your situation. You need to show to the Brazilian immigration that although your retirement income is not $2,000, that you have a way to complement that income. All right, Jonas. So that's the first part of the answer. The second one: how long must I remain in Brazil, or can I travel at will? Yes, at least as of today, there are some changes going on with the immigration framework due to the change in federal government in Brazil. But at least as of today, there is no minimum time that you must stay in Brazil. However, there is an expectation that you're going to be sending the $2,000 a month to Brazil, right? The idea is not to ask you to say, listen, do you have $2,000 a month to spend? But Brazil is actually expecting you to spend this money. So I would say from the retirement visa perspective as of today, as long as you spend the $2,000 a month and you don't want to stay in Brazil like the entire year, you are absolutely fine. Okay, Donna, I hope that helps. Rony, welcome back, Rony. Oi, Luciano, Fortaleza remind me of Miami, but cheaper and friendly. That's a great way of referring to Fortaleza. And I also do think about it, but not Fortaleza, Miami, but I think more like, Ceará as Florida, okay? And I do spend a lot of time in Ceará. I actually have plans to spend, some of my coming months in Ceará. And then you're going to see a change of background over here. I'm trying to get, like I told you guys, like we assist with developments in Ceará, with lots of developments, right? Like, so for one of the developments, we actually advise on the legal side, so we have a somewhat interest in the development, and I'm asking my colleagues over there maybe to have a setup at the beach from where we can have our live streams, right? Like there would be a kind of construction on the beach with completely clear windows, so you guys could see as a background instead of my office. You guys would see, the beach, the palm trees, and all the good stuff that you have in Ceará. But going back to Ronnie, yes, the way I see Ceará and the other Northeast states, I say, listen, it's like you're mirroring, right? Like in the United States, you have New York, like in the Northeast, and then you have the South states, of course, in the South. But for Brazil, if you mirror that, like Florida would actually be in the Northeast, which is the case for Ceará and the Northeast states. And then what is New York for the U.S., we actually have São Paulo, right? And then we have Rio de Janeiro, kind of not in the middle, but still in the south, but north of São Paulo. So yes, if you mirror the United States and you transpose like to South America, yes, I think it's a pretty good analogy to think about the Northeast as Florida of the United States. Really nice sharing, Ronnie. All right, João Villa, I know the coast of Bahia, Pernambuco, and Maceió. They are wonderful places. So João Villa is a friend of mine. He's from Brazil. And as you can see, right, like he knows a lot about the Northeast. And for Brazilians, the Northeast is more like this dream type of place in which most of people would dream of retiring, right? Like, I mean, people from São Paulo, like João Villa, he's actually from São Paulo, just like I am from São Paulo, right? So when I am in Ceará, I'm kind of living the dream, all right? And that's the same thing here that João is sharing. He knows coast of Bahia, Pernambuco, and Maceió. So for us, Brazilians, particularly if we are from the south, we do see Northeast as a very special type of place. Thank you for sharing, João. Donna, all right, I answered that question from Donna. Kate-Well, am I right that Brazil does not care much, if at all, about how the monthly funds are transferred to the Brazilian account for the retirement visa? Could use WISE something similar? I think that as long as you can show in a let's say in a legal way that you send the funds, I think that WISE would be just fine, right? Like WISE at the beginning when it was just TransferWise, now they bought the WISE domain, so we have something easier to type. But at the beginning it was TransferWise, and WISE or TransferWise at the beginning was just an app. But now WISE in Europe particularly is a fully fledged bank, right? And WISE is actually doing like the clearance for wire transfer for many other banks in Europe. So, if we were talking about WISE, maybe 5 years ago, I would probably say avoid WISE. But nowadays, I don't think anyone could argue against WISE, because WISE is just like a huge bank system, with reaching every single country potentially in the world. I don't think that Brazilian immigration would have an issue with that, okay? Something I don't like that is very often discussed in our consultations is when the foreign citizen says, well, I'm just going to be using my, American Express card, or, MasterCard or Visa or, Diners or whatever you have, and I'm just going to keep using it, right? Like, can I do that? And no, you cannot, because I can clearly see that you're not sending the money to Brazil, right? You're spending the money in Brazil, which, yes, it's part of the whole purpose of giving you the retirement visa in the first place, but it's not the same thing as sending the funds to Brazil, okay? So if you send in the funds through WISE, I don't think you're going to have a problem. But if you're going to start to use a credit card just to say, yeah, I spent $2,000 a month and here is the bank statement, or not the bank statement, the credit card statement, I think you could have an issue with renewing the retirement visa. All right, Kate, I hope that helps. Chris, all right, May 14th, I go to Salvador and Maceió to check some apartments. Can I, as a foreign citizen, to get a power of attorney when I'm there? I want my Brazilian girlfriend from São Paulo to be my grantee, right? Like he's saying in Portuguese, my procuradora. And if so, what are the steps? So there is nothing wrong with a foreign citizen having like a grantee for a power of attorney in Brazil, right? You're a grantor, your girlfriend would be the grantee. However, you're talking about Salvador, Bahia, you're talking about Maceió, Alagoas, right? Let me write down over here. First thing, I'm going to tell you the cartório. The registry that you would use, that's the Cartório de Notas. All right? Power of attorney is for everyone, not just for foreign citizens, but the Cartório de Notas is going to be the type of cartório, the registry that's going to handle the power of attorney. We have 7 different types of registries in Brazil, and Cartório de Notas is one of the 7 types that you're going to find in Brazil. So this is the one you're going to go. And some of the paperwork, right? Like, passport, obviously you're going to need it. You must have the Brazilian tax ID known as CPF. So if you don't have CPF, no power of attorney for you, right? So make sure you have the CPF tax ID. That's the second, I would say, maybe the first or the second must. First one is passport, because if you don't have an ID, it doesn't make sense to try to get a power of attorney done. Second one is going to be the CPF tax ID. Now, some documents that registries or cartórios may ask for in Brazil are going to be those allowing the registry authority to understand or to know your parents' names, right? Like this thing of the parents' names is kind of repetitive in our live streams. And people get really surprised, right? Like, why are they asking my, birth certificate? I am never asked when I am in the U.S. or even, for Europeans, but for Brazilians, and as a consequence for foreign citizens, when they are in Brazil, birth certificate is a big deal, and they wanna know, Chris, the names of your parents, okay? Now, if you just say, well, I have a copy, I have a scanned copy, is it going to work? Most probably not, right? Because if you think about the birth certificate as part of the identification process in Brazil, we say that a birth certificate could be almost on the same level of a passport, right? So if you think about a passport, you cannot show up with a copy, you got to be the original. And therefore, a scanned version of your birth certificate is not going to work. Most probably than not, you're going to need like a real birth certificate, meaning not a photocopy. And on top of that, you would have to get the apostille, which is a document issued by the Department of State in the state in which you were born. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now, as an alternative, and hopefully it's not your case because you're saying you have a girlfriend, right? But in some cases, the foreign citizen is married. And if the foreign citizen is married, sometimes the marriage certificate could work in lieu of a birth certificate for both spouses. If the marriage certificate has the parents' names for both spouses, okay? But again, hopefully, if you have a girlfriend, you're not married, and in your case, you would present the birth certificate. If there is a relationship between the parties, like particularly in Rio de Janeiro, we have a strong relationship with registries in the city. So even if you don't have that, sometimes we are able to get a power of attorney done. But they say, listen, this power of attorney is not going to become effective until I have the full paperwork for the grantor, right? For the grantee, usually just very basic documents like your girlfriend, it would be basically her ID, so they can know who she is. But for the grantor, they are going to need more documents. All right, Chris is clarifying not married. All right, smart guy, this Chris. I'm just joking. So CPF, Chris has, not married. So Chris, most probably than not, you're not going to be able to get a power of attorney unless you have an apostilled birth certificate that's going to be sworn translated in Brazil and then recorded in a second type of registry. I'm going to write here the sequence. The sequence is going to be apostilled birth certificate, and then this thing is going to need a sworn translation in Brazil, and then you still need an additional step, which is called the recording at the RTD, which by on the other side is like a special type of cartório known as registro de títulos e documentos. All right. Okay, so there you go. So that's like a very summarized answer, Chris, to what you're going to need for your power of attorney. Okay? I hope that helps. João Villa, good to see you too, Luciano. All right, João, I hope to see you again here in our live stream because it's not only helpful to have a participation of foreign citizens, but sometimes Brazilians, they may have a different take on the matters we discuss over here, and therefore Brazilians could participate as well to bring like more local information to the table. All right, another question from Kate. I saw in a few real estate listings that the deed was a public deed. This is not good, correct? Public deed. Katie, I don't know exactly the the type of deed you are mentioning, right? Just to explain the cartórios or the registries, cartórios and registries in Brazil, they are of a private nature, but they are performing a public function. Okay, so from a technical perspective, every deed should be actually a public deed, right? Because it has legal value for the entire Brazil legal system, and it is being issued by a cartório, meaning that it's being issued by a public authority, right? Now, maybe there is some distinction in here. If you give me more information, I may be able to understand the type of deed you are talking about, right? But there is just one deed, we call it a deed or a title, and I'm gonna write down here in the chat, legal titles, deeds in Brazil are known as Registro Geral do Imóvel, or RGI, all right? And you can usually obtain a copy of it by asking for certidão de ônus do imóvel or certidão de inteiro teor do imóvel. All right. So here are some names like in English and how you would, explain those concepts in Portuguese. That could help with the communication. Like if you have a local realtor, if you're looking for properties, if you're asking, for a copy of the title, that's how you're going to ask. Listen, can I have a certidão de ônus do imóvel or a certidão de inteiro teor do imóvel? That changes according to the state, or even sometimes the cartório. But if you use one or the other, they are going to understand what you're looking for. And if they say something, well, we don't have that, or this is not available, that could be a sign that this is not a property that you should be buying. Okay. Okay, Jonah, does the letter have to state the amount that I have in other funds, or just say I have the necessary funds available? So, Donna, again, it's never a letter, all right? You're going to need to show evidence of the complementary income. So let's say if you're getting Social Security from the government, right? Like you're getting federal Social Security for $1,700 a month. You're going to show a statement for the Social Security. That's what you're going to be showing, right? Like you're getting, federal Social Security. You have a breakdown of, the taxes and fees that are being charged. And then there is going to be a net amount, which hopefully is going to be close to the 2,000, let's say 1,700. If you get 1,700 as a net, it means that you're going to be missing $300 a month to reach the $2,000 requirement. And that's what you're going to need to show to the immigration, that you are getting this money from somewhere else. Okay, so in my example, let's say you're doing Airbnb and you're getting $300 a month because you're renting like, a tiny a room that you have in a garage, or like in the back of your house, you're doing Airbnb. So that's what you're gonna show. You're gonna show the Airbnb statement, and you're gonna be showing your bank statement to prove that those $300 a month that you're getting from Airbnb is being sent to your bank account, right? So there is no letter. Nobody is telling anything to the Brazilian immigration. The Brazilian immigration is going to see from the paperwork that you are actually getting $300 a month from Airbnb. Okay, so you are actually showing evidence and not a letter from someone saying, yes, Donna is getting $300 a month from blah, blah, blah. You need to show an evidence, right? Because just a letter is usually not enough. All right, Donna, I hope that helps. All right, let's see. Okay, Ronnie has a question. Once I have a permanent resident visa, if I leave Brazil, for example, to work in the US for maybe, let's say, 6 months, will I lose my permanent visa? Right. So let's say if the visa you got it was from investment in real estate, you just need to stay in Brazil for 2 weeks every 2 years. Okay, so if that's the visa you're getting, you could potentially stay in the US, like 6 months a year without any worries that you would lose your permanent visa. Okay, some specifics may apply depending on your application, on the type of permanent visa you're getting. But I would say that 6 months a year for any type of so-called permanent visa is more than enough. Chris, muito obrigado. You're welcome, Chris. Keep your participation going. Happy to see you here. Teacher Isaias Pospkill. Beautiful English, and he sounds really professional. All right, appreciate. Like coming from a teacher, I do appreciate the comment. I wish I can watch it another time. Yes, Isaiah. So you can watch like whenever we have a live stream, it's actually uploaded automatically by YouTube to our channel. So even if you're not around, of course, you're not going to have an opportunity to chime in just like you're doing right now, but you can still watch the content whenever you are available, okay? Because it goes as a recording in our channel. And we have, in addition to Sundays, we also have a live stream usually on Wednesdays, okay? Like on Sundays, we do it at 3:30 Rio de Janeiro time. On Wednesday, we do it at 12:30 also Rio de Janeiro time. All right, Isaiah, so hope to see you around. Chris, birth certificate. I have a real one in multilingua, in multiple languages, including Portuguese. Still needed the apostila. Yes, Chris, you do need the apostila. All right, the apostille is going to be, the apostille is not like related to the language, it's related to proving that the document is legitimate. Okay, so that's the whole purpose of the apostille. So even if it is in Portuguese, you still need to get the apostille. Okay. All right. Let's see. Katie, this apartment is exclusively for sale. Transference of the public deed upon complete payment, not for rental or similar. Transfer of the public deed. So you're probably talking about a property that was just built out, like maybe a pre-construction purchase, right? But this apartment is exclusively for sale. I mean, it sounds to me, right, this is just like a regular type of property with hopefully a regular type of deed. And if the apartment is just for sale, that's pretty common, right? Particularly if someone wants to sell a property, they are not going to make this property available for rental, okay? So up to here, Katie, I don't have anything indicating that this property does not have legal deeds. All right, but thank you for sharing. Jonathan McMullen, in using Wise, do I need to show a monthly wire of $2,000 into my Wise account to use as qualifying income. Okay, so you're talking about the 2000, Jonathan. So I would assume you're talking about the retirement visa, right? Because you asked before about the real estate investment route, but I understand you are probably evaluating your options, and if you show a monthly wire of $2,000 into your WISE account, to use as a qualifying income. So there are two moments in time, Jonathan. So the first moment in time, you're gonna need to show qualifying income. Okay, that's a good question. So whenever you apply for the retirement visa for the first time, you need to show qualifying income because you're not sending money to Brazil, right? The Brazilian government is not asking, show me that you're sending money to Brazil. No, they are not asking you to do that. They're asking you to show that you have a qualifying enough income. So for the first moment, you're gonna need to show retirement income. So in your case, let's say if you worked for the military, let's assume Jonathan was working for the military, and therefore Jonathan has a pension or like a retirement benefit from the U.S. Army or U.S. Navy or whatever military branch. You're getting $2,000 a month. So you're not going to be sending that you're not going to be showing that you're sending money to Brazil. You're going to show, your retirement account statement. So immigration can see, all right, Jonathan is getting $2,000 a month as retirement funds from the military. And that's going to be enough. That's for the application. Now, usually they are going to give you, if you are applying in Brazil, they're going to give you just a year. But after this year, you're going to apply for the renewal, which could be for 1 or 2 years, and you can renew indefinitely. So for the renewal, they're not going to be asking you to show qualifying income because you did that for the first application. For the renewal, you're going to need to show that you are actually sending the $2,000 a month. Okay, so depending on the timing that we're talking about, you're going to be either showing qualifying income or you're going to be showing that you are actually sending money to Brazil. Okay, Jonathan, so two different moments in time. And Jonathan, by the way, is confirming here. I can see, yes, Retirement USA. Thank you for confirming, Jonathan. But yes, it's going to be different depending on whether you are filing for the first time or if you are renewing your retirement visa. All right, Donna, so I just need my bank statement. I think that the bank statement may not be enough, Donna, because just think about my example, right? Let's say if you just see like the $300 a month being deposited, if it says Airbnb, I would agree, kind of, means that you're getting additional income from, short-term rental. But I would still provide additional information. Bank statement showing the $300 a month from Airbnb for 3 months, by the way, not just for a single month, but for 3 months. And in addition to that, I would show my profile with Airbnb because then I make it crystal clear that I'm getting this income from a rental property, and then the authority is going to understand, oh, I understand the rental coming from a property is something like recurring, right? And then 3 bank statements plus something explaining the nature of the source of money, and you should be good, Donna, okay? Ronnie, follow up, my permanent visa would be from marriage. Obrigado, Luciano. Yes, Ronnie, so from marriage, you get usually a permanent residency right off the bat. It's not like the real estate investment that you first are going to get like 4 years. It's called a temporary residency, but on a permanent residency level. And then you renew, like the second time you or the first time you renew, or the second card you're going to get is usually going to be the permanent. But for the marriage, you go straight into the permanent residency 90% of the time. And if you would stay, I would say, 6 months, a year, you're good. It's not uncommon for people to stay much longer abroad and come back and still have the permanent residency without a problem. Okay, I'm just gonna not mention a specific timeline because we have changes to the immigration framework as we speak. Just by the whole visa requirement for U.S. citizens that has been postponed for 4 times so far. You understand that there is a lot of activity, in the immigration framework because of the new federal administration. Until last year in January, the new administration took place. They were using pretty much the same immigration framework until roughly like October or November of last year. But since then, they are trying to change things to align immigration with, like the strategic thinking of our current president, right? Like the way he thinks about immigration usually is going to be reflected on the immigration framework. But I would say that, a marriage permanent visa, Ronnie, is pretty solid. And as long as you don't forget about it for good, you're still going to keep it despite going back to work abroad. All right, Ronnie? Okay. Donna, so now Donna is providing some specifics. No rental, my funds are deposited from a trust. How do I show this and get a postil 3 months bank statement? That's good information, Donna. So, trust is a very solid source of income. So I would say, the 3 months bank statement showing money coming from the trust. And if you have any official document from the trust, like some trustees, they are going to usually work with an investment bank that's going to have like a summary for the trust specifics. So I would handle both things. Okay, handle both things, like the trustee, the trust, right? Like the trust manager summary letter and the 3 month bank statements, right? How do I show these? So yeah, that's what we just spoke about, and get apostilled. There are many apostille service providers in the U.S., and there is no shortage of service providers who are going to be able to get you an apostille for either the bank statement or the trust account summary. Okay, so you're going to just hire a service provider who knows how to do that. You don't need to learn how to get an apostille. Usually it's done at the capital of the state. So if you're talking about, Texas, it's going to be in Austin. If you're talking about California, it's going to be Sacramento, and so on. But nobody, even if you're retired, even if you have, time in your hands, you're not going to do that by yourself. You're going to hire someone, to do that on your behalf. But there is not going to be any shortage of service providers who are going to be able to get you the apostille for the things that you need. All right, Jonathan, I'm marrying my Brazilian fiancé who lives in Brazil. And does that give me an opportunity for permanent citizenship? All right, congratulations, Jonathan. Yes, if you marry your Brazilian fiancé, you don't need like the retirement visa. You don't need the real estate investment visa. In this case, you're gonna be relying on your marriage with the Brazilian spouse. Okay, so the only thing I would mention is that don't rush yourself. Make sure that this is the right arrangement. As often as people come to us for advisory with marriage, as often we're gonna have people coming to us for advisory on divorce. Okay, kind of natural. Of course, I wish your marriage is going to last forever, but you can never tell up front. So I just tell you, do not rush with a marriage just for the sake of immigration. If you want to get like a couple of years, for you to make sure this is the right decision for you, the digital nomad visa is always a great choice because it's much easier for you to accomplish or to obtain a digital nomad visa than it's going to be the case for a retirement visa. Okay, the retirement visa is considered by the Brazilian immigration as a higher level visa. So, for instance, if you're applying for the retirement visa, you're going to need the FBI background check based on fingerprints. And most probably than not, you're not going to be able to do that unless you are in the US. For the digital nomad visa, on the other hand, you just need any background check. It could be from a city, it could be from a state. So most of our clients, when they are physically in Brazil, and if they decided to apply for the digital nomad visa, most often than not, we can assist with the application entirely without this applicant having to return to the United States. However, if this person wants to apply for the retirement, it's not the case because they are going to need to return to the United States to get the FBI background check. All right, Jonathan? So just telling you, yes, but don't rush yourself if you want to get like a couple of years in the country, again, to make sure that marriage is the right path for you. That's an option we usually strongly recommend, okay? Test the waters, make sure this is the right decision for you, okay, Jonathan? I hope that makes sense. Chris, you missed my question about the POA model. All right, Chris, let's take a look. I see the one about the birth certificate. I see obrigado, not married. All right, Chris, if you wanna just repeat the question. I know I did answer the one about getting the power of attorney while you are in Salvador, which yes, that's the advised route. That's for you to apply for a power of attorney when you are physically in Brazil. Your girlfriend can be your power of attorney holder. Okay, and I also told you about the documents. I'm not sure if there is another question that for some reason POA model, right? Yeah, just rewrite over here, please, Chris. I don't see that question. All right, Jonathan is saying, yes, thank you for your expertise in the area, and he's really appreciating. My pleasure, Jonathan. Thank you for taking well my comments, right? Like it's not what everyone wants to hear, okay? So I do appreciate your understanding that I'm answering with your best interest in my heart, okay? D. Gibbs, welcome, D. Gibbs. And good to see you that you're here. Definitely test the waters, John. All right, yeah, I appreciate. Like if you are here in our live stream, and if you know about any experience that you would like to share, please do so by all means, right? Like I'm not supposed to be sharing, too much specifics about our clients. We are actually precluded by the Brazilian Bar Association to share, clients specifics. So whenever I do in a very general way in order to never identify a client, right? But if you guys have knowledge of, some type of story in Brazil, by all means, please share over here. Okay, Chris Moose, can I use a power of attorney model from the Receita Federal and use that, or do I need also a translated one in Dutch? Got it, Chris. Yeah, thank you for sharing this question. So the good news for you is if you are in Salvador and if you go to the cartório, I told you about cartório de notas, right? Let me write down over here again, cartório de notas. they will have a template and they will write the POA for you. Usually, always usually, right? You never know. But the standard is like this, Chris. The cartório de notas, they are going to handle it. They're not just going to rubber stamp. They're not going to rubber stamp your POA. They're actually going to draft your POA, right? Now, they may ask you, all right, well, what information I'm going to have in the power of attorney? And you pretty much will say, I'm the grantor, she's the grantee, and the object for the power of attorney is going to be purchase of real estate, right? And to buy real estate, it doesn't need to be specific, but just a heads up, if you're going to be selling a property, then the power of attorney must mention the target property by name, because the Brazilian legal system just wants to make this pretty safe for the grantor. So if you're selling a property, the power of attorney will need to describe in details the property being sold. But if you're buying, the idea here is that you don't need to be extra careful, because whatever you're buying, it's going to come to your name, right? So a power of attorney for your girlfriend to buy the property on your name, it could be pretty generic, like, she's going to have powers to represent me in the purchase of a real estate, and then there's going to be a laundry list of powers. The cartório could feel a little bit restricted in terms of advising you in terms of the powers. So sometimes the powers, they can give you a template, but they're not going to, let's say, tell you exactly every single power that you should have, because the idea is that they are actually drafting this power of attorney from a legal perspective. Is going to be a public power of attorney, okay? And let me write down over here. For real estate, a POA will be accepted only if public. Okay, by public, we mean a power of attorney following specific formalities. And again, if you're doing that at the cartório, they know the specific formalities, all right? Now, if you're going to do this abroad, it changes the story dramatically, because then you're not going to be handling the power of attorney in a cartório. You're going to be handling abroad, and it becomes a whole different animal, all right? It becomes a whole different animal. I do not recommend for you to get a power of attorney for real estate transactions done abroad, okay? And the reason is that you're going to need to accomplish over 12 steps. Nobody's going to advise you on those 12 steps, because you're not dealing directly with the cartório. So even if you are able to follow all of those 12 steps, there is still a chance that at the end of the process, once you have this beautiful power of attorney, when it's time to buy the property, that the cartório who's going to handle the closing, it's not going to accept your power of attorney done abroad, because one of the many elements that you're going to need were not handled correctly, okay? So I'm going to write over here, power of attorney done abroad, which I usually do not recommend, okay? And then I'm giving you a link with the many steps, all right? So we even have, a step-by-step in our website, but message is, I do not recommend, all right? Sometimes people want to hire us, right? Like we charge for this one some good money, but I usually say, you know what, get this money and fly to Brazil. Go on a Thursday, you do it on a Friday, you spend the weekend, come back to the US, you're going to kind of spend the same amount of money, but then you're going to enjoy a weekend in Brazil. That's usually my recommendation. And a lot of people are going to pay a consultation to hear just that. Skip on the power of attorney done abroad, travel to Brazil, and do locally, because it's easier, it's faster, less expensive, and the chances of succeeding are substantially higher. All right, Chris. All right, Chris is commenting. The animal changes from cat to tiger as a heel. Yeah, that's a good comparison, right? Like a cat. So it's kind of, if you're gonna do in Brazil, you're buying a cat. You're spending, I don't know, $100. If you're gonna do abroad, you're gonna buy a tiger. I don't know, $3,000, $5,000. That's a really good way of thinking about doing locally versus doing abroad. A nuance, Chris, just in case we have like a resident foreign citizens. If you are a foreign citizen with permanent residency in Brazil, you can use your resident card to get such power of attorney done in a Brazilian consulate. So even though you are abroad, you're not going to be dealing with the tiger, you're going to be dealing with the cat, but you must have the Brazilian resident card for the purpose. If you don't have it, then it's going to be tiger. And then you forget about abroad, you do it in Brazil. Okay, all right, so we are approaching the end of today's live stream. And all right, why does everything you type disappear after the live? Is it possible to leave the information for future reference? Donna, I would assume like those, those things would remain here, but it's surprising to me. And I agree 100% with you, Donna. I agree 100%. This thing should stay on. And I know, I remember from, like the past when we were planning the live streams that the idea is it takes some time for YouTube to process the chat. So immediately after the live stream, you don't see the chat, but as far as I remember, right, a day or so later, the chat should be available along with the recording. All right, Donna, I'm gonna ask you a favor. Oh, I just see Bill. Hey, Bill, welcome here. WS Bill, and Bill is saying exactly the same thing. Hi, Donna. You have to wait till the next day or so for the chat to show up. Thank you so much, Bill. Donna, there you go. Bill just confirmed what I was trying to explain. He was able to make it in a more summarized and concise manner, but that's the point. You don't see it right away, but if you come back to our recording a couple of days later, the chat is going to be available. All right, Donna? So that's helpful. I agree with you. It shouldn't disappear. All right, Chris is saying thank you for all the clear answers. Jonathan is saying thank you, Luciano, as well. Really good to see you here, Jonathan. I still remember you. I remember your fiancé. I hope you guys are doing pretty well. And as we speak, there is a live stream scheduled for Wednesday. Wednesday is going to be the first day of May, and it's scheduled for the usual time, which is 12:30 Rio de Janeiro time. You guys are welcome to come here. And if you go to YouTube, you're going to see the schedule. You can click on Notify Me. So this way you don't forget about the live stream. You get a notice to remind you about the live stream. I'm going to ask you a favor. Please like our live stream so other people can find it. Thank you again for your participation. Have a blessed rest of your Sunday and see you on Wednesday.